Hmm. Hmm. Susan, are you there?
She's muted.
Looks like we have a quorum and we can start. So I can read the boilerplate. So this is a little bit new version pursuant to Senate Bill number 2475, which was signed into law by Governor Baker on June 16th, 2021. This meeting of the Southborough Youth Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with the right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Southborough's website, www.southboroughtown.com. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch or participate in the meeting may do so in the following manner by finding the meeting at www.southboroughtown.com/remote meetings. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately assess the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on Southborough's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive recording of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. So with that, I'll call the meeting of the Southborough Youth Commission to order on July 13th, 2021 at 7:06 p.m. I don't believe Anne has made it to, she has? Oh, wonderful. So we have with us tonight, first on the agenda is a strategic plan presentation by Ann Budner. And I'll leave it to Sarah to give an introduction, brief introduction. Sarah, I can't hear you.
I was talking to myself, really. I'm promoting Ann to panelist so she can join us. Let me just. Okay. Ann, you look so different. There you are.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi. Ann, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Okay,
you.
good.
Welcome. Thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be here. I feel
Yeah.
very small. I'm at my husband's desk with his fancy speaker and his fancy camera, but he's like usually up here, so I look very small.
This works just fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, thank you for joining us. So Ann, we had always had an interest in doing some strategic planning in the department because it's been challenging at times with the scope of the work that we do to narrow that scope and sort of know which direction, what services we should be providing, what we shouldn't be, to sort of fine tune what it is that we do and really better assess the needs of the community, and be more strategic and thoughtful in our approach. And so having relationships with other youth and family service departments in neighboring communities, I had learned about Anne's work with a couple of other youth and family service departments. And so it was back in maybe January or February of 2020, I believe, right before the pandemic, or was it a whole year before that? No, it was right before the pandemic, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, everything's kind of in a time warp. So
Yeah.
quite a while ago, we met with Anne, and in talking with her, we knew right away that we wanted to work with her, especially given her knowledge of the unique circumstances in which our department works. So we're very appreciative to having Anne's involvement in our community needs assessment and the strategic planning process. And we're very grateful for all the time she's invested up to this point. And to sort of put the cherry on top is tonight's presentation of the plan. And so without further ado, I'm gonna hand it over to her.
Thank you, Sarah. It's been a pleasure to work with the Youth and Family Services Department staff and volunteers, as well as all of the terrific folks in Southborough who joined the planning committee throughout this process. It's been a wonderful experience to get to know this town and how much people care about it and its future. So I'm excited to talk with you about this report. And I want to start by just explaining that I am a nonprofit consultant. I specialize in independent nonprofit organizations. And I've been working in this field for over 20, probably 25 years at least as a consultant. And before that, just after college, I started in nonprofit work. So I led 3 different nonprofit organizations that were educational and youth oriented for 10 years. So I have a long history with nonprofit organizations, and I've just developed a kind of cottage industry working with youth and family services municipal departments because a client of mine was working with the Westboro Youth and Family Services. So that's how they found out about me. And so I conducted a strategic plan with Westboro, and then I went to Hopkinton Youth and Family, and then I came to Southborough. So it's a very unique and special department that Southborough is fortunate to have. Not every town has a Youth and Family Services department. And to me, the way in which you operate has more similarities and differences with nonprofit organizations. So there are a lot of parallels that I see when I work with these departments, one of which is that the mission is very big and the need is never met. And there are many, many stakeholders to satisfy and to include. And that will not change. Also, the funding is quite limited, and you don't have a lot of opportunities to raise funds. So that is a concern. And certainly in departments that aren't as fortunate as Southborough, they don't even have a Friends of group. So they're even more dependent on municipal financing than you guys are. So there are a lot of parallels to me. And the last parallel I want to highlight is that the Youth Commission functions similarly, but not officially as a board of directors for the Youth and Family Services Department. So the Youth Commission was established by statute, state statute, that towns were able to start youth commissions if they wanted to. So towns decided whether they wanted to do that. And Southborough was one of them. And then those youth commissions then formed youth and family services departments over time. And the youth commission is really the advisory board. And you don't have sort of legal fiduciary responsibility the way a board of a nonprofit organization does, but you do have the ability to help the organization financially, strategically, programmatically, and in terms of awareness in the community. So you're an important, extremely important group of volunteers, and we value the input that you have made, the contributions that you will make in the future. So I want to say that there's a big role to play for the Youth Commission in this plan, and we'll be talking about that tonight. What I wanted to ask, first of all, is there was a lot of information. So the plan is long. And then there's this community needs assessment, which the plan links to, which is about 45 pages. So I assume that you've had some time to look at least some of that before tonight.
Yes.
Some nodding heads, some not. So tonight is, I do encourage you strongly to read it. We tried to make it interesting, and the community needs assessment is mostly graphs and a little bit of text. So it's not 45 dense pages. It's not like reading a short story. And then the strategic plan has multiple sections in it, which I think move quite quickly. And there are some tables in there as well. So it's not daunting. And I really think it's important for you all to know what's in it. But tonight I'm going to go over kind of the executive distilled summary for you. So you'll get the highlights of both the plan and the needs assessment. Okay. And Sarah has a document that she can share.
Would you like me to start sharing that now?
Yes, unless there are any questions or comments first.
I just want to say thank you, Anne, for all your support too. It's very interesting meeting you, and I think it's done a lot for the commission. So thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you for joining us on the committee. So I want to encourage you to ask me questions. Without sort of in too much discussion, this will take a half an hour, and then we'll have plenty of time to talk afterwards. Okay. So Sarah, I guess I'm going to ask you to move the slides. So the table of contents for this particular presentation is the planning process and the committee members who participated. And then we'll talk about the community needs assessment results, which was the surveys, the interviews, and the focus groups that we conducted in Southborough. Then we're going to talk about the guiding principles of the plan, and then the goals and the critical issues. And then we're going to dive into the strategies. There are many strategies, but these are the strategies specifically related to the Youth Commission. Okay. So you can go, that's great. Move next slide, please. So the process involved a planning committee that Sarah formed that met virtually during COVID for 9 meetings. And we completed 4 steps over 4.5 months. So the committee met for 9 meetings, but we had many more meetings with Sarah and Shannon and Megan, and some that Chelsea participated in, and other members of the committee on their own time, in addition to the planning committee. We first developed the guiding principles, which are the mission, vision, and values. And then we conducted a very extensive community needs assessment, which is was a priority for your department, which included a community-wide electronic survey. And we're going to dive into that in a minute. I think it was 6 focus groups or 7 focus groups, I can't remember. And 34, I may have the numbers wrong, and a bunch of interviews. I don't have the numbers in front of me. Maybe you do, Sarah. Whoops. Whoops.
Sorry, I
7 focus groups.
navigated away from my screen. And
It's okay. It was 21 interviews with various stakeholders in town and 7 focus groups. And then we took the data, thank you, Sarah. We took the data from the needs assessment and that informed our discussion about the goals, the major goals for the department, the objectives, the strategies, and the tactics. And then we completed the plan, including the narrative sections and the outcomes metrics and all the attachments, the addendums. And now you have a complete plan. And we would like to thank the Friends of the Youth Commission for their financial support for making this project possible, as well as the planning committee members who you can see here. Are there any questions or comments about the planning committee members or the process right now? You can see the planning committee was intentionally designed to have representatives of the municipality as well as community agencies, residents. We had also Safdar Medina, who is a physician and consulting physician to the school department and the founder of Southborough Neighbors for Peace. So he had a few different hats that he was wearing. And Melissa Clark leads the GSA link, which is for LGBTQ youth, and she is based in Northborough, but she works with Southborough students as well. Okay. Shall we move on? Okay, so this is the community needs assessment survey. We're going to talk about the survey first. So we had 510 responses to the survey, which was really fantastic. We were really thrilled about that. And I know Sarah and her team worked very hard to get that survey out and encourage people to take it. And you probably saw the sandwich boards around town and at the transfer station with the QR code, and it was sent out through the school email distribution list and the rec department distribution list and the senior center distribution list and everything, every way we could think of to get people's attention during COVID, you know, in a virtual way. So it was challenging, but they did a great job. And 510 is a significant response given the population of Southborough. So most of them are residents, as you might expect. 7% are employees and 5% are both. 91% were over 35 years old and 82% are white and 71% are female. So you had that white female middle-aged demographic that loves to take surveys. I've seen that in other towns. 23% speak a language other than English at home, at least sometimes. So we didn't ask, are you bilingual? We asked, do you speak a language other than English at home? And the answers were yes, or sometimes, which is a little bit confusing now that I think about it, but most people who answered this question who did speak another language said sometimes, they didn't say yes. So for some reason that resonated with folks. So most likely they're bilingual because only 1% said that they utilize translation or interpretation services. 46% have at least one child in public school, and you can see the other demographics. I don't. So there was a good breakdown of people who have children in different school levels, age levels, and some who a little less than 20% who have aging parents that they're caring for. And I just want to draw your attention to the slide at the bottom. Can you just go up a little bit, Sarah? So the bottom left shows the race and ethnicity breakdown. And there are 509 responses to that. So as you can see, most of them are white, but the other races that did not specify, or I'm sorry, they did specify, but I put them into an other bracket. There are 2% who are Black, African American, Brazilian, Middle Eastern, Native American, or someone who identified as American. And I don't know what that race is or ethnicity. So we were happy that we had that kind of diversity. We wish we could have had more, but there is some representation there. Any questions about this slide or comments? Okay, moving on. Now, we learned that respondents know more about accessing mental health services than substance abuse services. They're most confident about how to access mental health support services and least confident about how to access services for substance abuse. So there was another question about, I know it when I see it. I know mental illness when I see it. I know substance abuse when I see it. But as you can see, people were a little less confident about those indicators. Compared to all respondents, we call people of color, bilingual residents, seniors, and other subgroups appeared to be less confident based on their responses about accessing mental and or substance abuse services. And with that in mind, and I'm not showing you that slide because that's detail that we don't have time for tonight, but there are slides that show those results. And those subgroups may need targeted outreach with messaging specific to their needs because they're not as responsive or they're not as comfortable with the messaging that they are getting right now. Another subgroup that was interesting is men. So men are much less likely to identify mental illness or mental health issues as a problem, much less likely than women are, which you probably would not be surprised to hear. So men may need a different message than women do. And one really nice wrinkle to this was that the clients, either current or former, we don't know. We just asked if you've ever used SYFF services. Those clients are much clearer on all 4 of these measures than the general population. So in the like the 80 to 90% range. So they understand the signs and symptoms and they know how to access services, which is really gratifying. I think that means that SYFS has made a difference for those families. Should we move on? Okay. So 68% of all respondents said that they have struggled, they or their families have struggled with balancing life in general in the last year. This was really in the context of this COVID year and how it's affected you. So number one response across all demographics was 68%. And this is the overall response. 317 people answered this question. The next most popular answer was parenting struggles and then mental health concerns. But interestingly, seniors ages 60 to 75 plus chose mental health as their number one challenge. So I guess that subgroup was different than everybody else. And I think it's significant also that 23%, almost a fourth, reported feeling that they don't belong in or can't connect with the Southborough community. And if you dig into the subgroups, so bilingual people, people of color, they rate that indicator even higher as a concern. I think it moves up to third, but we'll look at that. Any questions? Okay, let's move on. Thank you. 50%, 55% reported their own worry or anxiety has increased during COVID. And you can see the second blue line, not the darkest, but the next one, the one that I've indicated with a label, shows what's worsened over the last year. So the highest response rate was for general level of worry or anxiety, mood, sleeping habits, eating and appetite, financial worries. A fifth of the respondents said financial worries. But then you start to see with financial worries and family conflicts, a little, maybe even about eating appetite, that they've stayed the same for more than 50%. So depending on where they started, that could be a good thing or a bad thing. We don't know. And then we asked a separate question about folks' children and what the same questions, but how their children feel. And 44% said their children's worry or anxiety has increased as well. Now, this was taken during May, approximately. So people may be feeling better now, you know, but Sarah's shaking her head. It was a slice in time when people were pretty anxious, but, you know, you take that as context. But, you know, this is a historic moment. And I think that the fact that you have this kind of data during a historic event is pretty valuable. Let's move on. We asked if they approached YFS when they needed help, and 87% of respondents said no, they didn't. And when they asked why, 41% said I'm sorry, 36% said they didn't know about YFS. 41% said they found a different resource. Most of those people who found a different resource went to their doctors. But there were some interesting explanations for why people chose another reason. And you can see 21% thought they were ineligible. And we'll talk about that later. I think the most likely reason that they thought that they were ineligible is that there's a perception that at YFS is for people who are financially in need. You can see some of the responses here that we don't trust your confidentiality. I don't want to expose my personal issues to a public body. Some people didn't even like the idea of going to the department. They don't think it should only be for emergencies and not for less acute needs. So that, I thought that was interesting. Okay, moving on. All right, so we have some key takeaways that I'm providing for you. And if you don't read anything else, read these takeaway pages, because that's kind of the, you know, the Cliff's Notes. So first of all, outreach. More and targeted information should be shared with the community, particularly in terms of substance abuse, since that's the least clear aspect of your services or the issues that need to be understood. And then overall, the top 3 issues families face are balancing life in general, parenting struggles, and mental health. While the number 3 issue for people of color is feeling out of place and not being disconnected, feeling disconnected from the community. So Sarah explained to us that struggle balancing life is sort of a euphemistic or less threatening way of expressing maybe upcoming mental health issues or percolating mental health issues. It's an easy thing to say, I'm having trouble balancing my life, when it could be the beginning of anxiety, depression, or acute stress. So that is that is a cause for concern. And then 21% of people of color said they can't have trouble connecting, and they ranked financial instability a greater concern than mental health. So there was some variation in subgroups. And I already mentioned that seniors ranked mental health number 1. YFS needs to clarify that its services are available to all residents, because a lot of people we talk to in interviews, focus groups, and even in the surveys in their verbatim said they were not aware of this, or they weren't even aware of the department. Sometimes the name can be misleading. So if people might think youth and family, well, if I don't have youth in my family, I'm not eligible. If I live alone, I'm not eligible. Maybe it's just for youth. There's some confusion about the name, as well as for whom the services are available. And as I mentioned, subgroups are often more confused. And then it seems to me that the top service priorities, from what people have said and what is needed in the community, are mental health counseling, mental health referrals, and financial support. And there's an awareness difference in terms of what YFS offers. Any questions about this page? Okay, moving on. For a majority of people, worry and anxiety has increased during COVID, and mood, sleeping habits, and eating and appetite have also worsened. Similar story for the kids. And subgroups, especially people of color, have higher rates of these complaints than the overall population. And as I mentioned, the services have had an impact because clients are very confident about how to recognize the symptoms and how to access services. We did dive into a special analysis of the clients themselves, and we found that they're struggling with multiple issues at higher rates than the general public, which kind of makes sense because they came to you for services. So you can see the top issues here. And 3/4 report their sleeping habits and worry got worse during COVID. And these rates are 16 in the case of sleeping habits and 37 points in the case of worry, higher than the overall group. So much more worried, much more trouble sleeping, and much higher rates about worry and mood changes in their children as well. So they're just more in crisis. They're suffering more. Any questions? You're very quiet. Am I going too fast?
I wonder, Anne, because you had said that we would have plenty of time for questions and comments at the end. I
Okay.
imagine this group is quite chatty, so I'm sure when we get to that point,
Digesting.
conversation.
Okay. All right. So we only have 6 pages more or something like that. We're almost done. We're ready for the next one. So I mentioned that we conducted focus groups and interviews. So focus groups were small groups of how do I explain this? They're similar demographics. So we had a focus group of parents of young preschool children, and a focus group of teens, Algonquin teens who live in Southborough, and a focus group of parents of kids in middle school, and a focus group of seniors, and so on. It's all, if you want to know the details there, it's all in the plan. And these were all conducted via Zoom by your wonderful YFS staff and Chelsea Malinowski and Safdar Medina. Am I missing anybody? I don't think so. And so those were like our discussions with a facilitation guide. So each group discussed the same questions. And then we also conducted interviews with a variety of stakeholders from town, both public sector, private sector, community residents, and community agency representatives and faith leaders, and all those names are in the plan. So you can see everybody who participated. So what we've learned from both of these is that COVID's effect on the family has been profound. And as you know, the pandemic has amplified existing issues, and clinicians are seeing a stunning increase in mental health needs in children, and those who were on the edge before the pandemic have been pushed over the edge in many cases because of the additional stress. Pressure on the family unit, the work-life imbalance has been extreme. And many parents are concerned about their students' academic progress, as are the kids, actually, in some cases, especially the older kids. And town employees also spoke about their own disconnect or their own tensions between taking care of residents as well as their own personal families and their own selves, and how difficult that was. So another key takeaway is that mental health concerns are predominant, and there is a stigma around admitting that one needs help and accessing services. So people are reluctant to go out there and find services. Kids talked about how the parents just don't really know what's going on. They don't know how much their kids are struggling, and they think things are better than they are, because kids don't tell them. Substance abuse is also an issue, but more, they don't tell them and they hide it. They hide it very well, is what they said. Substance abuse is also an issue, but it's more invisible, especially during COVID. There were reports from, I think this was mostly teens who talked about this, but I can't say for sure, that there is a lot of drinking and drug use at the high school, and the two towns blame each other, which I thought was an interesting statement from one of the participants. The fire chief talked about how there have been increasing calls to the fire department and related to drinking and drug use, and parents having supervised drinking parties where people they drink too much. Somebody said the school system treats vaping as a disciplinary action rather than an addiction. And the fire or police chief, I can't remember, talked about how there have been deaths in the town related to opioid use or abuse. So this is an invisible threat.
And can I just clarify that some of these items that are bulleted here are things that some of the participants reported versus necessarily being a product of our report, but we're just kind of reflecting back on some of the themes that came up from kids. Not to say that, in fact, we think that the school system is treating vaping as a certain way, but just what we were hearing.
That's a very good clarification. Thank you. Okay, moving on. It is difficult to be different in Southborough from what we heard from participants. There are many reasons that people feel like they might not fit in. And I've listed some of them here. It's not just one group that doesn't feel like they fit in, but in this small community, it can be easy to feel like you don't belong. Several people talked about exclusion happening when people are not invited to social gatherings, and that sometimes there's a socioeconomic divide between people who are invited to parties and people who are not. And other responses talked about undertones of racism. So this, again, these are individual comments, but not just one, more than one. person mentioned this. There's also a pressure to keep up appearances, and I think that's related to the socioeconomic kind of aspirational culture, and also the intense academic pressure that students just shared. And then a second point is that Southborough could do many things to be more welcoming, and that was the #1 theme in the focus groups and the interviews, that building a sense of community would make a big difference in Southborough in terms of making it more welcoming and inclusive. And there were lots of ideas about that, including talking about spaces that are free and open to all, community events that bring people together, more Southborough town-wide events, and also mentioning affordable housing and public transportation to allow lower income people to get around and thrive in the town. And the last was that outreach and prevention is just a really big theme, and that the department needs to connect with the community proactively under positive circumstances to decrease stigma. And youth particularly said, can you get us the information directly without going through our parents and our teachers and our guidance counselors? So we can just reach out on our own and not have to go through that filter, because they don't want to be, they feel like they're going to be negatively affected if they go through. It might be on their record, or there might be some repercussions, or they want to be able to connect on their own, which is, obviously complicated and has issues. But there's a suggestion to several suggestions to have resources being in some kind of comprehensive listing that's easily accessible, and utilizing more volunteers and regional groups and schools to try to spread the word and not try to do everything within the department, within the staff of the department. Okay, moving on. All right, so that's the end of the needs assessments. You can take a deep breath. So we took all that information and we said, okay, now what? What does this mean for us? And we rewrote the mission, which you can see here, to provide compassionate and equitable behavioral health and social services to Southborough residents of all ages. That's the purpose of the department. Yes.
Can I just chime in, just because I know that a couple of you have been involved in working on a mission statement previously. As part of this process, we wanted to take a look at the current mission statement that we were operating under. And Anne highlighted for us that we needed to come up with a mission statement that was more streamlined and timeless, that regardless of whatever services we were providing or whatever was happening in the community at any given time, that the mission statement would be applicable across all circumstances. So we really made an effort. We did have this already. We had a mission, but it was pretty wordy and not super clear. So I just wanted to chime in to mention that we did decide to make those changes.
Thank you. Okay, and then the vision is sort of that's the inspiring, galvanizing future state that's going to motivate you to keep doing what you do. So this is a vision that Southborough is a healthy and strong community that is inclusive of all residents and responsive to their needs. And I think that's really lovely. And I think most everyone will agree with that, that it's a it's a goal that people will share from all walks of life and all aspects of the community. And it's not something that YFS can do on its own. I think that's kind of obvious, but you know, you can help. There is a return error in these values there. The third one says respect and equity, promoting self-determination. Those are supposed to be two different ones, so I apologize for that. And in the plan, each one has a little bit more explanation to it, or almost all of them have a little more explanation to them. But these are the values that the staff and volunteers on the committee felt that were really quite important. I think many of them are self-explanatory, but promoting self-determination says that people are doing the best they possibly can, and there is always room for growth. We empower individuals to make their own decisions about what is best for them. And that really came from the staff, thinking about the way that they do the work they do. So I thought that was really great. And then respect and equity, which is, I guess, just before it, says all people are inherently valuable regardless of their ability, gender, age, et cetera, et cetera. We respect the dignity and welfare of all people and strive to provide equitable access to services. And that's related to advocating for social and racial justice, which is about 2/3 of the way down. And that was really a response to the racial and just the racial upheaval this year, and the fact that we're all more aware of the inequities in our culture and our community, and sort of redirecting ourselves to stay more focused on that and think about how people can access equitable services and what we need to do when we're in a position of influence and power to make that more possible. Any questions? Okay, we can move on. So we use those guiding principles to come up with 4 strategic goals. The first is an internal goal to strengthen the systems within the department and establish standards of operational excellence and efficiency. So this is really helping the department streamline services, reorganize staff, clarify services. There's a lot about technology, record keeping, confidentiality, systems that need to be in place or are in place in a very cumbersome way at the moment and need to be made more efficient. And the town is going to help with that. Number 2 is evaluating, refine, and streamline service provision. And that's all about like getting the services out there more efficiently and clearly. And the 3 main services are mental health support services, need-based services, and prevention programs. I'll repeat that again. Mental health support services, need-based services, which is all the financial need-based, emergency relief, transfer station, sticker, voucher, it's like a long name, food referrals, housing referrals for people who are housing insecure, all of that. That's need-based. Camperships, birthday parties, scholarships, that kind of thing. That's the need-based services. And the birthday party, the gift, what's that called? The friend-to-friend mentoring thing.
Oh, Project Friend.
Project Friend, thank you.
The other, the birthday one is Smiling Kids program.
Smiling Kids, thank you.
Mhm.
And then the prevention program, oh, and the holiday store, holiday gifts. And then the prevention program is kind of the least developed arm of the department, and that is going to receive new attention and focus. The third goal is to increase awareness and involve the community in our mission. And we've talked quite a bit about that, and we will talk more about that because it involves the Youth Commission. So I won't say too much more about that. And then goal 4 is to build DEI competencies along with targeted programming and services. So this is a renewed and more highlighted commitment to outreach in a particular way to target underserved communities in town. The strategic issues that we highlight in the plan that emanate from the needs assessment and guide all of the goals, strategies, objectives, and tactics in the plan are that clear messaging and regular community outreach are crucial, that the department cannot and should not try to serve all needs by itself, that the staffing should be reorganized to meet community needs more efficiently and reduce risk factors, that it's challenging to be different and residents yearn for a stronger sense of community, and that COVID-19 has created a more acute situation which reinforces more than ever the need for the department. So this is like page 14 is like your favorite page. So if you want to print out one page and or take a copy of this and keep it on your phone, and you're ever in an elevator again and you're talking to someone about YFS, this is the page you should know by heart, I would say. This page and the last one, so, but mostly this page. I mean, the mission is good to know by heart, but I think even more importantly is this one. Okay, moving on. So these are this is the last page, you'll be glad to know. So strategies related to the Youth Commission in goal 1, which is the internal services, is objective 3 is strengthen the Youth Commission board. So there are 6 strategies, and there is a focus on clarity of purpose and job description so that everybody knows what their role is, and to receive training for that role, and include opportunities to get input from you and help and ask for help from you to reach out to the community. You are the ambassadors for the department, and the staff need your eyes and ears out there in the community saying what's happening and reflecting back to the staff what the needs are in the town. We're also looking to recruit new members with specialized skills, perspectives, or experience. And strategy 5 is, where can volunteers help considering the concerns around confidentiality? Like, this is something that has to be kind of figured out because the clients really want confidentiality, and the department has a very high priority to maintain confidentiality, and it does. So it has to think carefully about how to engage volunteers in anything that would involve clients. But that is something that should be discussed and figured out. And then the last is that there's this sort of murky relationship between the Youth Commission board and the Friends of the Youth Commission, and what are the different roles and how can you work most effectively together as a powerful triumvirate, the staff, the board, the friends. I mean, how lucky you are that you have a friends group, and there's probably a lot more that friends group could do and might want to do if given the opportunity.
Can I just chime in as sort of an example, because some of you might be reflecting and saying, I don't feel like it's that murky. But there have been times, at least internally, where I've sort of said to myself, and maybe some of you have too, that it's hard to know whose decision it is when it comes to making changes to something. So for example, we've kind of talked a little bit about making some changes to our holiday giving program, for example. And the staff within the department can't make that decision on our own. The board can't really make that decision on their own either, because Friends is invested as they hold the funds to some of those programs. That might not be a perfect example, but it just sometimes can get challenging to know which hat people are wearing and who's responsible for what. I do think I agree with Anne's assessment there that we have some incredible assets, and we are very lucky to have the Friends of the Southborough Youth Commission. So I look forward to continuing to sort of determine and define the different roles that we play.
Thank you. The third goal, which is about awareness and outreach, has a really important strategy, number 5, which is utilize members of the Youth Commission, the Friends, and other allies as ambassadors for the department. And we haven't specified how that will be. And I think that that's a conversation that all of you, both as a collective and as individuals, can have with Sarah and the rest of the staff. What makes sense for you as a volunteer? What do you like to do? What do you feel comfortable doing? And then it can evolve as the needs change in the community, or as your confidence grows. But the reason that you're on this board is because you're passionate about the mission and helping the community, and that's powerful. Very powerful. We would like to figure out how to have you help spread the word about the services and decrease the stigma and encourage people to take advantage of the department. It's just like a gem in your town that people are lucky to have access to. And then goal 4 is the objective 1 under goal 4 is building understanding and appreciation of within the department of DEI principles. So this is a nod to recruiting representation of more diverse members of the community to the Youth Commission board when vacancies become available, so that the board is more representative of the diversity of the community. We talked about youth members as well and how to utilize youth, and that's something to discuss as well. I know there has been a youth council. It's a little dormant with COVID. Some of the youth commissions have youth members as regular members that come to every meeting, and then they have a bigger youth council that meets separately just with the director. Some people have a separate youth group. So there are lots of different ways, but the youth have a lot to say. And I didn't mention them here, but they are important, or they're not mentioned in this strategy. They're probably somewhere else. And then the note here is important. So for all the strategies, this is just a highlight of it, but for all the strategies and detailed outcomes benchmarks, you have to read the plan. So there's much more in there. There's detailed information about timelines and how implementation that Sarah and I worked really hard on. So this is not just a bunch of ideas. It's planned out. And that's, kudos to Sarah for a lot of hard work, a lot of hard thinking about what comes first, what comes second, who's responsible, what needs to happen. So let's move to the next page. I think this is the end of my time speaking to you, and I want to thank you and encourage you to call me after tonight or contact me by email if you have any questions or concerns going forward. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing. Anne, is it okay for me to share tonight's PowerPoint presentation after the fact?
Yes.
Okay, so people can have your contact information that
Yeah.
way.
Yes, definitely. I should change that one slide where the value was wrapped around so it's correct. So I'll do that and send that to you.
Great.
Thank you so much, Anne. That was really clear.
Oh, I'm glad. You're welcome. Is
Thank
that
you.
Lauren
Yes,
talking?
Lauren, yes. Does anyone have any questions for Anne right now?
No, I just wanted to give you guys a lot of kudos. This was a very thorough, I've written a lot of plans, not necessarily in the nonprofit area, but using survey data to kind of guide strategic missions. And I thought it was thorough, evidence-based, data-driven. I'm really excited that we have this kind of information to move forward. I think that in the past, we've just been kind of basing things on our hearsay, and which is important, and input from the community that, from our own personal experiences and stuff. But I'm just feeling really energized by this information, and I'm so glad that we have a direction. And I think that it's giving the staff and the board members a lot to work with. And I also think it will be a great piece of information to leverage in our community, the importance of promoting mental health and prevention-based services. So I'm really excited to move ahead. So thank you, Anne, and thank you the rest of the staff and everybody else who contributed to the plan. I was one that answered the survey too.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. That's a very nice kudo. Thank you very much, Sarah. I appreciate that.
No, it was really well done, and I'm going to have to sit and I did read through it a couple times and have an opportunity to reflect. I appreciate your summary. That was really helpful. And I'm secretary, so I was busy scratching down notes to put in the minutes, but I really want an opportunity to reflect on it and have some guidance as board members of I know there's some specifics, but how we can support this in the community, whether it's, creating awareness or getting financial support or whatever it takes. We're here to help.
Fantastic. That's wonderful. Thank you. And I do think that it may be unclear that the community needs assessment report is linked in the plan. Did everybody see that? Did anybody try to follow the link and have trouble, or did you not follow it?
Was it at the end in the appendices?
No, it's at the beginning.
At the beginning.
The link is on the page. Page 8 under community needs assessment data.
I did not try to follow the link, but I will.
So
and make sure that it works.
we have tested it. It does.
Okay, good.
I am concerned that people will just skim through that and not read the report. And I wonder if it could be uploaded to your website just as the plan is, so that people can read.
I was just going to say, it is on our website, both the community needs assessment report and this strategic plan, as well as the executive summary. So the executive summary, just so you're aware, is a one pager outlining all of the goals, the strategies and objectives, and any tactics that we came up with. So if you need sort of a quick snapshot of all of the goals, all of the strategies, you can check out the executive summary, but all of those are listed together as separate documents. You can link to the community needs assessment, as Anne mentioned, from the online document, but it's also available as a standalone document on the website.
Wonderful. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, on the very first tab of our homepage.
Great, thank you. And I think that it's a really valuable tool as you're making your case to the select board now and in the future, that you have all this data to back up the needs in town. You can pull out those graphs and use them for future presentations when you're talking to town manager, et cetera.
Oh, it's great. And I love the focus groups. I thought that if we could do that again, to just have all those, the different age groups, the parents of the young adults and some of the strategies that they could use to deal with what was going on with them, and having the police chief and the fire chief involved too. So I hope we can do that again. I know it's a lot of work, but the focus groups were terrific.
I agree, and it was wonderful, and I'm amazed that all those people answered the surveys, which was great. The thing I think that was, I think we probably all were sort of vaguely aware of most of the things, but the thing that truly surprised me is how many people feel disconnected to the town.
Yeah, it's very upsetting, actually.
Yeah, and that's such a good area to think about working on now.
Right.
That was a high number.
Mhm.
So I suddenly felt an overwhelming sadness when we were talking about how many people feel disconnected and are having such hard time. And like Southborough seems like such a happy place where everyone is like living happy lives, and it's apparent that that just is not true. And I almost started crying at one point.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's reflective of a lot of communities and the problem with mental health issues and decreasing the stigma and making people feel comfortable with
More
access.
connected.
Yeah.
More connected, but
Yeah, I think, I think it's a problem in a lot of suburban communities. And as we become more diverse and inclusive, hopefully, I think that people, especially this past year, it was very hard to connect to anybody. But if you moved to the town or you were, fragile, part of a fragile population, I think it became even more apparent. So, but it is something that, yes, I think very serious and that we should definitely address through, different kinds of programming. And it's not just our department. There are other town departments that can be involved in connecting the community. The rec departments want, they're.
And the senior center's the other one too. They do a lot, but obviously there's work to do on all of the age groups.
Well, I thought this was a wonderful presentation, and we'll definitely have time to reflect on this more. Is there any other comments for Anne? And we've kept her for a little over an hour now, but
I'm fine. I'm good.
well, Anne, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. I did want to give Shannon and Megan a nod because they worked really hard on this as well, and they're terrific. As the whole team, Sarah's extraordinary, Shannon and Megan also, they're very hardworking, very dedicated to this department, and often in a thankless role that feels it feels like a very tall hill to climb, I think, some days, especially with COVID. I mean, I think you've all really risen to the occasion in an extremely challenging year. And I'm just amazed at the work that your department and the other departments do every day to help people. So I know it takes a toll. I know it's extremely challenging, and I hope that this plan will help you find your way in a less stressful and less challenging environment. So I want to wish you great success, and I look forward to seeing the success of the department and how you grow and how the Southborough develops and all of that. So please keep in touch and let me know how things go.
Thank you so much.
You're
Thank
very
you,
welcome.
Ann.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank
Thank
you.
Ann.
Thank you.
So that was great.
Wonderful.
That was such a good, succinct summary of that. Let's see. So first on our second on our agenda is the review of the minutes, and we have two sets of minutes. We're brought back the May 12th, 2021 minutes. So let's address that one first. If I recall, there were some amendments that were made, and we wanted to see what that might look like in final form before approving them. We can talk about that a little bit later as far as the procedure for that. But do I have any motion on the May 12th minutes? And
Can
then
I just tell you what I amended for the May 12th minutes? I removed Susan Byer from the list of board members present. I changed the director report. It was cited as March, but not, it was April. And there was a discussion about moving the strategic planning discussion. And I did decide to move that to the end of the minutes. So I think I took everything into consideration, and they are up for your review and approval.
Okay, so I move that we accept the May 12th, 2021 minutes as amended.
Second.
Okay, we'll go through a roll call vote. We have Susan Byer,
Aye.
Stu Butka,
Hi.
Beth Dombucker,
Hi.
Marguerite Landry,
Aye.
Sarah Micas,
Aye.
and Lauren Ritchie. Aye. All right, that motion passes. All right, for the June 8th meeting minutes, and I wasn't sure if I should have brought this up for the May minutes, but I think we can, the only thing I noticed on the June minutes, the templates for this mentioned Southborough Youth and Family Services meeting. It's the
Yeah.
Southborough Youth Commission. So in the future for this, maybe we can amend this one for, and then in the future. It also calls for, it discusses the board of directors, which we really aren't. So just the Southborough Youth Commission would be good. And then at the end, the same thing when we were talking about the positions for the vote, that'd be Southborough Youth Commission instead of SYFS.
Okay. Yeah, let me double check. All right, yes, I can definitely amend those. So in the future, you want the board to be recognized as the Southborough Youth Commission?
I believe that's our formal name. Yes.
Okay, all right.
Does anyone have a motion for the June 8th minutes?
Okay, I move that we accept the June 8th minutes as amended.
Second,
All right, roll call, Susan Byer,
Aye.
Sue Butka,
aye.
Beth Dombacher,
Hi.
Marguerite Landry,
Aye.
Sarah Micas,
Aye.
and Lauren Ritchie, aye. So, moving along to, sorry, there we go. The director's report. Sarah, would you like to highlight anything specifically on the director's report, and then we can open it up for questions?
Sure. I will say that we're kind of entering into a slower part of the year, although some things are ticking up. But in terms of programming, we spend a lot more time in the summer months with planning. So we were winding down a lot of things. As Anne highlighted, I personally had a lot of work to do to try to tie up the strategic plan, which took some time. So that was nice to be able to finish that out. We had our last month of coffee talk and decided to take a break from that for the summer. We're not sure what we'll be doing with that in the future. But we had too many scheduling conflicts, and it's really a challenge under great circumstances. So never mind lots of different schedules for the summer. And what else do I want to highlight? I think the other big thing is our return to in-person services completely. So we're happy to report that for the most part, with the exception of a few people or a few appointments here and there, we're seeing all individuals in person at our office for counseling services and otherwise. We're still wearing masks while meeting with people, and we're still socially distancing with them. And we're getting updated guidance from the Board of Health regularly on that. In fact, I think Friday I had received an email with another update on what we can and cannot do. So I have to look into that a little bit further. But so right now we're really just trying to wind down the school year in June and start planning for the fall. And I feel like it's a little bit more predictable this June than it was last June. Last June, it was really hard to plan for anything. I would say, given the strategic planning process and our commitment to certain items, it's helping us to reevaluate what we decide to bring back versus kind of pushing pause on some things and really examining them a little more closely. So we hope to have more information for you all in an upcoming meeting in terms of what our thoughts are for various things. If we have any changes we want to propose. Shannon and Megan, am I missing anything from June that you think is noteworthy? Dog has something to say about my comments. I don't know if anybody has questions or
I had
comments.
one question about the operating budget for July. Yeah, it looks like it might have been passed down from the number above on, it might be a typo, in other words. It looks like it adds up to 12,500, but it says 12,400 as a total operating budget for July.
Yes, that would be a typo. My apologies. So it should read 12,400. It's actually, I
500,
think
right?
it's 500 is the correct number. Sorry.
It was 400 last year, but it seems to have moved into a new budget year, I guess.
Yes.
Okay. There any other questions on the director's report?
I don't think so.
All right, how about the next would be the donation account expenditure approval, which listed as, if I understand right, the donation account balance is listed as $8,441.73. Is that a change at all?
That is the updated number that rolls over from one fiscal year to the next. And we don't have any requests right now for that.
All right. Oh, I'm sorry. I turned this off. There's gonna be a phone call. I'm gonna put myself on mute. Could we have the Friends report from,
Oh, sure.
I believe Sue?
Yes. So I spoke with Leslie, and I'm going to try and be the liaison between the two groups. And if if there's any questions, we can contact her. She's not here with us tonight, but I am going to meet tomorrow with Beth Delevia from Hometown Hospitality in Hopkinton to try and get some ideas. They've created their own binder that has resources for local businesses. And I don't know if we need anything as elaborate as they have, but I kind of just want to talk to her about some ideas that we had, because we had discussed that at our last meeting. What else? We are still trying to recruit new friends. That never seems to change. Lauren has stepped away from Friends so that she can focus her attention as chair for the Youth Commission, and I want to thank her and congratulate her on her new position. We also discussed holiday giving or question the annual giving campaign. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more. And that discussion we had during our meeting earlier was interesting on who makes that decision, whether it's going to be Friends or it's going to be the Youth Commission or a combination of both. And I still have not spoken, I guess I need to talk to Chelsea about this, whether or not the Board of Health would approve if we did some sort of auction this fall because of COVID, if we're allowed to do anything like that, or if we should still be focusing on that caregiver holiday around Mother's Day of spring 2022. We are meeting again Tuesday, July 20th at 7. Jennifer is still going to be our Facebook administrator, but we could also use some more help with technical needs to help her out. And I still have not spoken to Amy Barry. I'm going to talk to Beth tomorrow about this to get maybe names of new residents, a record of births and death certificates in town to help us see how we can reach out to the community in different ways as far as the Friends group goes. So I think that's all I have to tell you right now. Debbie Keefe was on the last call with us, and we look forward to working with her as well. Does anybody have any questions there?
Can I just make a clarifying point on the birth certificates and death certificates, because somebody might be wondering what that meant, but
Oh, yes, thank you.
I think the goal, having sat in that meeting, was just not to identify personal information, but rather those are sort of life-changing circumstances, and if we can identify families that might be experiencing such a life-changing event, that we could it's a great outreach opportunity to, just share some information about what resources might be available to them, or just some even psychoed information about what they might be going through, because they're big adjustments. So that was
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue, for that. I wrote it down when Ann said that there's a powerful triumvirate of the staff, the board, and the Friends group. And I think we can see that it's all tying in together. I think that's great.
Yeah.
All right. So then we're down to other business. The first on that list is board vacancy. Following last month's meeting, and the discussion about that. We finalized the posting and posted it to the town website. And then I think that Southborough Youth and Family Services posted it to their Facebook page, and mysouthborough.com referred to it. To date, we haven't gotten any. We did find out today that if there's someone that puts in an application or contacts me directly, either someone could contact me directly or someone could put in an application, in which case I learned that it would be sent to me for a brief discussion with any applicant. And then all the applicants get sent to the Board of Selectmen for interviews. So that's that process. So to date, no inquiries. We're going to post again in several locations, including the Southborough Community Care and Share page, repost on the Southborough Youth and Family Services. And I think we were going to reach out to Jennifer and friends and see if we could have them post it, because we have some friends of the Southborough Youth and Family Services that might, or friends of the Southborough Youth Commission that might, Facebook friends, I should say. Perhaps one of them would be interested. Any discussion about that? All right. And then the big question for future meetings, we decided to hold this meeting remotely. Going forward in the future, we are allowed to have remote meetings pursuant to the governor's June 16th signing, but we can also choose to have in-person meetings. And so I'll just open it up to discussion about who feels comfortable doing what, who would most like to try to continue remote meetings for a bit and see how that goes, or try a in-person meeting.
If we're doing round robin and everybody's speaking up, I'll just jump in and say, I really like the remote meetings because people can be away on vacation and still participate, and people can go home at night from their jobs and still participate. So I know there's a lot to be said for meeting in person, but I think Zoom makes it a lot easier for a lot of people, including people in town who want to watch the meeting afterwards. That's just my 2 cents.
Beth?
So I gave it a lot of thought, and I decided that it doesn't really make any difference to me personally which way we go. I like being with everybody in person, but if it's easier for some people to do it over Zoom, then that's perfectly fine with me. And I think there are some residents who enjoy being able to watch the Zoom meetings online afterwards. So, and I just froze again.
Yep. Beth put that
But
text
maybe you
in.
guys can hear me. I
She's
don't
freezing,
know.
and that's why she sounds so
But
slow.
anyway, that's my input.
Sounds like you're having a stroke.
Yeah.
Says the nurse in the group.
I don't mean that. I'm sorry, but it just,
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Right. Any other?
No. That's,
Oh,
yeah,
I wanted to maybe propose something regarding about moving forward with the virtual. I have to admit, I like the virtual. I think that it makes it a lot more accessible, not only to the members of the commission, but also staff and the community. I do think that there is some value in meeting in person. If we, on a quarterly basis, maybe we have, 2 or 3 meetings in which we do virtual, but then maybe we have one in-person meeting every few months. I just think it's nice to have an in-person check-in at some point in time. So it kind of combines the best of both worlds. So just thought I would throw that out there. There's this discussions going on, and not only, you know, municipal departments, but corporate businesses trying to figure out how best to forge ahead. But I think we saw the value of doing virtual, but there's also a value of being in person too. So maybe we can figure out how to balance that.
I do agree with what Sarah said too about the department itself and working and having to stay. I miss all of you in person, but I don't think any of us missed a meeting last year because we did it from home, or we did it from wherever we were. So I think for now we should maybe keep it this way and maybe do what Sarah said, where we get together a couple of times a year in person. But I think it might be easier for the department and for the people that are working to do this at night from home.
Do you think we should think about just the next 6 months and say, what do we want to do for 6 months?
Sure.
And that way the meetings could be scheduled.
That's a good idea as well.
I think the town's stopping it next April anyway. They don't want to pay for it anymore.
I was just going to comment, the governor's order is only good through April as of right now. So there will have to be an extension to that. So I know, just want to frame everybody's point of reference that we're not thinking that this is an option forever, but it's only, he's approved it to extend to April. There's a good possibility it will still be an option after that, but for right now, we should only be thinking about what we want to do between now and then.
We commit through January right now and reassess in November or so.
I think that's a great idea, Lauren.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's have a vote on that. I think that's something that could be voted on. We're still working through I'm still working through what's a vote and what's not a vote, but
Okay, so how about this? I move that the commission continue meeting virtually by Zoom and then until December 31st and reassess it in November.
Second.
all right, roll call. Susan Byer.
So, I guess, I just wanted to say that, you know, I really enjoyed the volunteer thing that they had at the senior center. And it was so nice to see Sue Butke in person and Lauren to meet you in person. And I think there's a few other people there as well. So I just want to say that, you know, I do like seeing people in person, and, you know, but if the Zoom thing is fine. So whatever you guys decide. But it was nice to see you, Sue, and it was nice to see you, Lauren.
It was nice to see you as well. And it was nice that the selectmen did that for the volunteers. So it was early, but I appreciated it.
I don't know if I'm supposed to say that because it's being taped. But
No,
it was-
actually you are, because we should have had a discussion option available after the second motion. So that, we'll call that discussion. Any further discussion? All right, so Sue,
Okay.
Sarah's waving her hand.
oh yes,
I just wanted to comment on the fact that I know I'm not a board member, but the fact that Susan saw Sue and Lauren was at an opportunity for board members outside of a board meeting, so I think that there are opportunities. You know, I know we're not going to be conducting business or deliberating, but there are opportunities for people to see one another outside of board meetings. So we're talking only about board meetings in this context.
That's true. That's true. So there will be events that we can get together for. No business can be discussed, but we could do that. And it was really nice to see everyone as well. But
It was great.
all
but
right.
I do agree.
So we can see each other at the concerts, right? there'll be a concert next week, I think, or is it this week? Is it this week?
Tomorrow,
looking
there's
at
a
my
concert.
Yeah, there's one tomorrow.
Yeah.
There's one tomorrow. So if anyone wants to meet me at the concert tomorrow,
I'll bring the tie-dye.
You know about the concert, Susan?
Not that again.
All right. Any
All right, so we should
further
give
discussion? So we'll go ahead with the roll call then. Susan Butler.
Aye.
Well, Susan Butka. Beth Domaker,
Hi.
Marguerite Landry,
I,
Sarah Micas,
Aye.
and Lauren Ritchie, aye. And-
Did Susan Byer vote?
Susan Byer?
Susan Byer.
Yeah. Aye, sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Beth. So we were just going to, for the third order of other businesses, to just briefly cover the process and procedures for voting, just like we did. I think everyone is on the same page, but we'll try to have the motion, you can amend a motion that's on the table. It did say that we'd come back to the minutes from May, something like that. I think in the future, we can try to go ahead and clarify the exact amendment if there is an amendment, clarify it exactly and go ahead and take a vote on it. And part of the pressure there is to get that back to especially the minutes to Amy Berry. I think that's who it goes to. Sarah, I'm not sure.
Yes.
Okay. I think it's within 45 days of the meeting that took place at the minutes.
Submitted. Approved minutes need to be submitted within 45 days, so.
I think also, if you don't have them, like say there hasn't been a meeting in 45 days, you can give them a draft and they'll forgive you and you can get the actual minutes in when they've been approved. They're not totally rigid about it, I don't think.
Okay.
No.
So I'm going to try to remember to do the discussion after the amendments, and we can also have a discussion before a motion, excuse me, a discussion after the motions. So the process would be bring an order of business. Someone can make a motion, second a motion, then we discuss and make any amendments as needed. And then go ahead with the roll call vote while we're doing Zoom calls. Any questions on that or about the process that we should, or anything you'd like to discuss regarding that?
I just want to say that I happened to watch the Board of Selectmen. I just caught it by accident, and I actually tried to find it again today so I could tell you guys what to watch, but I couldn't find it. So they were amending their minutes, and they did it right there and then. You know, somebody said that they had issue with something, and so they discussed it right then. They voted on it right then by show of hands, and they amended it right then and there. So that, you know, I was so happy to just kind of happen to catch that, and I just wanted to share with everyone.
Oh, so you don't have to put it off to the following meeting?
No, you do
No.
not. You can say
Okay.
move to
No.
accept as amended.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
done that in past meetings, so I
Yeah.
think that is the way to go.
All
The
right.
Board of Selectmen is great to watch if you want sort of lessons in Robert's Rules of Order. or
Oh,
whatever.
I'm sure. Let's go over really quick, like if we can put it in 5 steps, Lauren, what
Right.
the steps are to make a motion.
Someone needs to motion for the question on the table. And
Okay,
then, someone seconds that motion. It
Okay,
then opens for discussion.
okay,
And then if someone feels an amendment would be necessary, they would then move that the motion be amended by a certain wording. And then we would vote on the question with ayes or nays.
okay.
But when you make a motion, you have to state exactly the wording. You would say, I move to, I don't know what, appoint March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, okay? So in other words, when you make the motion, you have to say exactly the wording of the way it gets written in the minutes.
Mhm, okay.
Oh, gotcha.
All right, any other questions on that or discussion? All right, our last other business is email communications, which we've touched on a little bit, but during this last month, we had feedback from a number of sources. So here's, you know what, I'm going to put something in chat. I've never done this, so let me see.
Can we put something in chat? Are we allowed?
I was
do
going to
that?
put an email. I
Oh,
can.
that goes to the attendees also. So I just
Okay.
wanted to make sure, since it's subject to open meeting law, that anybody could see it.
Yes, it's the town of Southborough's email policy. And is that okay to post? Should be. So that link that I just sent has the town of Southborough's email policy that goes over a lot of information that also, and also there's an open meeting law separate policy and information we can get to you. But basically for our board communications, we have a couple of options, one of which is to, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes here, but one of which would be to include everyone on the email, and you see everyone, you can see exactly who received the email. But between us, we have to know not to respond and initiate anything that would become a discussion. So if we respond, we would need to just respond to the person who sent it, or
The rule is no deliberation, because we had to take lessons on that. I mean, we had no deliberation lessons basically. And it was, even if, say, I email somebody in the board, like I email Sue and I say, what do you think about the asking the consultant to come again and talk? And then I email you and ask you the same thing. And then I email Beth and ask her the same thing. That's considered basically a serial deliberation. It's discussing board business outside of the meeting. And even if I do it with one person at a time, that's you're not supposed to do that, because that violates open meeting law. Because we get into so much trouble with that over at the library, because somebody would say, hey, do you think this would be a good idea? And then somebody would say yes, and we just violated open meeting law because we discussed board business by email.
right. So one option is education for us and any future vacancies and or people who come on as new members, just continuing that education of what we can and can't do by email. Another option is to, well, it doesn't get around the serial nature of deliberations either, but if it's set up, one suggestion was to set it up to BCC. If you have everyone addressed by BCC, you can't reply all. However, you also don't know who received the email, which is a little frustrating. So there's ways around that. I guess my thought on it is probably I'd rather know who's on the email and just have the training to know not to deliberate on emails. But you can open that
I'm in
up.
agreement. I think that
Are
is.
we interested in having Jim Hegarty come and talk to us briefly about the open meeting laws?
There is an online presentation. I don't know if it's not the same as having someone come address it with us, but there is several signups for the open meeting law presentation. And I know I signed up for it in July 19th, this coming Monday. If anyone's interested in that, I can send that out to the link for that out to the board.
That was shared with me from Jim.
Oh,
Hagan.
I'm sorry. Okay.
No, I'm just saying, I had reached out to him when we had sort of a changing of the guard within the board. I wanted to share as much information as I could, and wanted to refresh my own awareness of open meeting law. And so I reached out to him. There was a training that his office, the clerk's office, provided to staff and boards and committee members a couple of years ago that was recorded. So I have the PowerPoint presentation for that as well as the recording. But Jim made the point that open meeting law over time, depending on who is, I'm not going to word this correctly, I should go to his email, but the law can be interpreted differently over time, depending on who's involved. And so he highly recommended one of these trainings to understand the current interpretation of the law and make sure that you're completely up to date. So that was a recommendation directly from Jim. And I also signed up for a training. It looks like it's pretty comprehensive and not too long of a commitment. So,
Sarah, this is something that we could send along to everyone on the board, right? They could all,
Yeah.
everyone can do it.
Yeah,
I'm
so
happy to-
yeah, it's on mass.gov. So if you go on, you can send us a link too, but if you go on mass.gov and search open meeting law, there's an abundance of information and many opportunities to sign up for the seminar. And I think I haven't done it, but I think it was an hour and a half. So that's really not that long.
And lastly, about emails, well, we can go back if there's more discussion, but the email policy says that you need to use your Southborough email for board business. And it makes a statement that if you forward your email, your Southborough email to a personal email, you just need to respond using your Southborough email.
Okay.
Should we, any more thoughts on just receiving emails to the board? Just list everyone in my hearing, we should list everyone on the board and everyone that's on the email, and then just be careful about the deliberations and make sure that we're all trained on open meeting law and email communications.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
All right, I don't think we need to vote on that. Everyone agree on that?
Yes.
Okay. That is all the other business we had. So last on the list is adjournment. If we have a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn. It's 8:51 and I move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, and we need to do roll call, which is Susan Byer,
Aye.
Sue Butka,
Hi.
Beth Dombacher,
Hi.
Marguerite Landry,
Aye.
Sarah Mikas,
Hi.
and Lauren Ritchie. Aye. That's it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Lauren, for being a chair today.
Thank
thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank
Good
you.
night,
Bye
everyone.
now. Happy summer.